Hello and welcome back to Sovereign RPG. We're back in Eve Echoes today for showing off my shield fit. Now I won't be doing sort of the breakdown at the end of the video. We'll actually show you sped up how the ship actually does inside of Anomaly. That is in the armor video. I'll put that up in the top right corner in the card, and I'll put the link to that video in the top comment and description. The shield ship does it a little bit quicker because you can have one of your rigs in the DPS to allow for those quicker clear times, and I have got a little bit of a difference in the high slots using the shield fit. Please remember to throw up a like if you are enjoying my Echoes content. That does help the channel to grow. It pushes the video to more people. I'm really loving the Dominix. It's been a couple of weeks now since I've got it, and it has been clearing anomalies for me left, right and center, making me billions of ISK. I'm really happy with the ship, and we do have a couple of ships coming up. We have the Raven coming up. A friend of mine is using the Raven and he's doing pretty well in that ship with that fit. Another one of my friends is using a Typhoon, another good ship for using in PvE, and also does really well in PvP. So make sure to look out for those. So let's get into the actual fit itself. Some of the differences from the other Dominix: we're not using the medium rapids, we're using the large rapid missile launchers, and we have 4 of those in the top slots. As per usual, all of the skills are not in God mode, so I can show you here. We have all of the standard skills, and we have as much as we can have with the amount of skill points that we currently have available. I will not be showing any 555 God mode skill ships because that really doesn't help anyone. It takes a long time for you to get to that point. So anyway, moving on to the mid slots, we're running the double NOS. This is for PvE only. You wouldn't really use this in PvP, even though I do use a large NOS in PvP to sort of stabilize the large shield booster. It does make you last significantly longer, especially if you're changing the NOS when someone is running out of cap. You need to switch that NOS around while you're PvPing, keeping people in range of that NOS to be able to keep the shield booster running for longer. And cycling that large shield booster makes you last a hell of a lot longer without the Nosferatus. So if you're taking a moment where you're not taking as much damage, you can drop that large shield booster off and then cycle it again once you start taking a little bit more damage. You do survive a lot longer. So from the change from the armor ship, we're using a target painter. This will allow your large rapids to apply more damage. It also allows for your drones to be able to get more smashing and wrecking blows. It's just a higher percentage chance, although it's not too much of a difference compared to what the damage output of the missiles will be with the target painter. We do have the Mark 9 Valkyries for 3 and 2 Mark 9 Hammerheads in the drone slots. You can swap these out depending on what content you're doing. If you're doing a Amar content, you should be using this sort of ship. If you're fighting shield content, then using those Amar drones with more EM damage is actually better for you in the long run. But for the content I'm doing currently, we do have the Hammerheads and the Valkyries in there. In the low slots, we have a large shield booster. With the rigs that we have currently, it jumps it up to 1,427 shield boost amount with an activation cost of 365 and 6.35 seconds for the activation time, with 3 adaptive invulnerability fields to get those resistances up to make up for the fact that you don't have a dual repper on the shield. You can run dual large shield reppers. You can run dual large shield boosters, but you will not be lasting nearly as long with the amount of cap that you have. You can swap out one of the adaptives for a reactive, and that will help in all content where you're not being shot by missiles. And the reactive is a very good thing to use if you're fighting in PvP against drones. We did some testing recently, which I'll be making a video on, that makes reactives one of the best things to be using against drone ships. Dropping the drone DPS down into the 20s, the 30s for your primary drone. And if you sort of split in the drones, it has 20 to 30 damage for the primary drone and about 100 damage for the secondary drone. It drops the DPS of drone boats significantly, so make sure to keep an eye out for that video. In the last 2 low slots, we have 2 Nestworm drone damage amplifiers. This ups your DPS quite significantly when your drones are on targets that take a lot longer to kill. So those battleships, those battle cruisers, you can stick those on. So try to stagger them so you have one on, and then when that finishes, you have the other one on. It just sort of helps to keep that damage sustained for a long period of time. Running them both at the same time doesn't do as much. in the long run as running one after the other, especially in longer fights. I do apologize if you can hear that drill in the background. I've got a building site right outside the back window, and today they're working overtime. It seems they're working just outside the window, so I do apologize if you do hear that. If you don't hear it, don't worry about it. It's all good. So in the rig slots, we have the drone speed augmenter 3. This is just a sort of activation time adjustment. It speeds up the rate of fire of your drones. And in the other two low slots, we have the charge economizer, an extra 30% boost, and the second one also for another 30% boost, which raises your large shield booster up to 1427 shield boost amount. And because of the amount of resistances that you do have from these three, and if you wanted to swap that last one out for reactive, by all means do so. You're sort of resist tanking on this ship rather than the armor Dominix version where you are basically rep tanking. So the more reps you have, it sort of cancels each other out. They both work very similar to each other. It just depends on your preference personally. In PvP, I would definitely go for a more shield fit. In PvE, I would go for the armor fit. It's a lot cheaper. So if you do have to ensure, if you do get blown up in nullsec while PvEing, it won't cost you as much to get those modules that didn't drop for you on the kill mail. And in the engineering slots, we do have 3 polycarbon engine housing 3s. This is your inertia modifiers. They do have diminishing returns, but there's nothing else that you really need in these slots. You're not using any micro warp drive or any afterburners. You're not using anything that requires more power grid. You don't need the actual CCCs or SMCs because you are stable with the dual NOS. So having that 8-second warp preparation time instead of 14-second is very nice to have, especially when you're jumping and say, for instance, something comes in local chat and you need to get out. The quicker you can get out to a safe spot, the better it is for you. But there are other options that you can have in there. You can have targeting quicker, you can do all kinds of other stuff. But I, for this particular fit, do like to be able to warp quicker. It is also much better so you don't have to change your fit every time when you're doing the storyline missions. You will be warping quicker and clearing those storylines much quicker. So let's have a look at the cold stats. We have 1114.52 total DPS, 377 being missiles, and 737 being those medium drones. In the defenses, we have standard 22,196 shield hit points. The resists are all as standard with no rigs in place. The armor's 25,852 with the standard setup for the resistances. The capacitor is very stable with the dual NOSes and the large shield booster being the only one on there, and not having dual reppers on there, you will be able to last a lot longer if PvP does come your way. Very small scan resolution as always. We have 310M signature radius is massive with a max lock target of 7 units. Navigation at 171.61 meters a second. But with these large rapid missiles, you can just sit at 0 and tank everything, not a problem. You don't have to move towards where you're attacking as much unless you are obviously fighting in Garista space where they like to sit out at range. You do have to approach your target. Right, so let's have a look at the hot stats on the ship when you are actually activated all of your modules. So let's activate those adaptive invulnerability fields and the 2 DPS, and we'll have a look at the stats now. So you're looking at 1,536.15 DPS with a 1200 DPS from the increase of the 2 drone damage amplifiers. You have a much higher defense EHP than you have in the armor ship, but the armor ship is a rep tank, not a resist tank. But after you have the 3 adaptives activated, you've got 66, 73, 81, and 83. These are very good, especially if you are going against the railguns, etc. You will be getting hit a lot less, so you won't need to rep as much as with the armor tank. The armor is still the same, as you do not have any rigs or modules that activate any of the resistances of the armor. Cap is still stable, targeting remains the same, navigation all remains the same. And that is the Shield Dominix. The Shield Dominix is definitely a better version than the armor one. They are quite comparable when it comes to how much they can tank, but you will have slightly more DPS, being able to not use as many rigs in defense as you do with the armor ship. The shield ship has a higher DPS. You can kill stuff a lot quicker, and you can warp a lot quicker in between anomalies and story missions, etc. So your clear times will definitely have a larger impact and be a lot quicker. As I said, there won't be a recording at the end of this of the sped up version of the Inquisitor. If it runs exactly the same as you would run it with the armor Dominix, so I will put the card up again in the top right corner if you'd like to see the end of that video where it shows you running through the actual anomalies. You're tanking almost exactly the same amount of EHP a second, but you are clearing quicker than the armor Dominix. And that's all we have today. I hope you found it interesting. Remember to like and sub if you haven't already. This is your one-stop shop for Eve Echoes content. Fly safe and avoid local chat scams.